They voted in all new officers, and hoping for change. But a lot of the things, when you want change, you also have to have people willing to do things, and it was really easy just to do nothing, because people that do nothing are easy to control, So the international leaves the local alone because they don't really do anything, and then so for the next 10 years or so, you have kind of officers that don't work their people up. Then in 2005, Richard got elected and cleaned the house and put in a whole new staff, and since then we've been trying to
rebuild it.
Yeah, and it's hard because we also have a whole lot of different, we've lost a whole generation of people that have experience of what a union is supposed to do, so they don't have that to fall back on. And with a lot of new workers, you don't have that, grandpa and dad, to go
and the kids being exposed to
right,
it.
Right. So it's been interesting. Frustrating at times, but we started up a stewards program, and that's been successful. But our numbers at rank and file meetings have went down. So we're going to start up the newsletter again, even though I'm late on this month's edition. But I took a week's vacation too.
How dare you take vacation?
Yeah, I know. So that's kind of how I'm here.
How have the raids, like the immigration raids, affected the area?
It hasn't affected this plant as much as a lot of other plants, but I don't know if the company has the political ties to keep them away. We have had them, one small raid. Hormel, after part of going into the strike was, in the industry companies were splitting up between processing and slaughter. And that was one of the reasons why they went out on strike, was to stop that. Now we have, after the strike, we have two companies instead of one company with two different wage rates. Because if the company would have went with the two wage rates, then they would the union would have been able to say, see, this is what we're trying to stop, So what they did was they kind of subcontracted out. I mean, it's a different company, but it has there's a lot of strings attached to the other company, Quality Pork and Hormel. Quality Pork is a slaughter. And so after about 1989, they attempted to open it up. The union was successful in stopping it, because the contract didn't allow subcontracting. So then the Hormel workers voted to open up their contract to allow subcontracting, as long as it only went so far, and then that's what we've been stuck with since. So you have Quality Pork paying about $2 an hour less. It might be $1.80 now. We closed the gap. The last contract we did close the gap some. Our thinking is at some point in time, if the wages get close enough together, they're just going to say, well, instead of paying two support staff for two companies, we'll just pay for one. But I don't know when that'll ever happen. So the Quality Pork has a lot more, because it's a new company, it doesn't have any of the old workers, a lot more people that's not from this area. A lot more. It's about 80% Hispanic now.
Hormel?
No, Quality Pork.
Quality
Hormel
Pork,
is
okay.
probably about 35, maybe 40% maybe.
Wow.
But that's come up in the last year. When we came in 2005, they gave the keys to the regional director. The regional director gave us the keys, said, there you go, make sure you're not late with your per cap payments. And that was the training that we got. So the first year was a lot of making sure that we, get all the government reports and make sure that the International Union gets their money. And trying to build things back up. And I can't remember where I'm going with this, I'm going somewhere. And when they first opened up Quality Pork, it was that was part of the agreement, was that any of the people that were still on the recall list could have first dibs on those jobs and still have recall back to Hormel. So then by 1992, late 91, 92, the recall list, everybody got back into Hormel that wanted to go back. And so since then, they've used up all the local help, and then they started, recruiting and busing people in from elsewhere.
Okay, so let me get this straight, because this sounds like a classic, right?
Yeah.
It's a classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you have workers that were screwed over, and lost their jobs from Hormel, predominantly white, if not all
Yeah.
white.
Yeah, predominantly, yeah.
97%. And then they wait on the recall list, and then all of a sudden you have immigrants, right?
Yeah, after they've used up.
Not all of a sudden, but years later, you have
through
immigrants.
the course of the next 4 to 5 to 6 years.
And you probably had higher wages for the white union workers, right?
Yeah, they had it took you 2 years to get up from your base rate to full pay. Maybe it was only 18 months, and we narrowed that gap to a year now. So yeah, I mean, it takes you a day, a week to learn the job, but it's going to take you 2 years to get the same pay. So.
And then they hope to not recall the old workers that have a history and a relationship and here connected to strong union roots and all of that. And then there's desperate workers that are immigrants. It sounds like every place else in the country in the history.
Yeah.
Especially like in Kensington, they had workers on American Street, and they were primarily white workers who then were replaced by African Americans and Irish immigrants. And then, but for worse wages and, worse working conditions and all of that kind of stuff, and were, for their destroyed relationships with each other, because everybody was just trying to hold on to a job and have some work. So it's just fascinating to hear that that racial composition has really changed. It's interesting.